Hi, I'm Daniel Schwartz from DSM Humboldt. I'm the engineering director, and I'm here to present you the Simplifier MK-II in depth. For us, at DSM Humboldt, the quest for the best tone using analog technology has been a huge part of our engineering efforts. The Simplifier Classic and Deluxe are the result of countless hours of research and development, replicating the nuances of each preamp type and the behavior of the power amp type being used on the linear range. Now, the Simplifier MK-II takes things a step further by adding the noticeable effect of the power amp distortion into the equation. It is not a secret that greatest tube amp tones are not just preamp distortion or using the amp very clean. Tube amps distort the signal very early when pushed, and although it is not very audible as clipping in the beginning, the extra compression, touch sensitivity, and note bloom are a staple of tube tone goodness. So after months of research, studies, simulations, and listening tests, we created our own virtual power amp circuit that not only reproduces the frequency response of power amps, but also the magical and mysterious dynamics that happens when overloaded. There are many variables that interact when a tube amp is clipping. For us, the most important and desirable are the tube compression, progressive breakup, the swirl, and dynamic frequency response. We managed to achieve these effects by carefully replicating a mini virtual tube amp topology inside, including a phase embedder, power tubes, bias, transformer, and feedback path. A key factor on the tube amp sound is the reflection of the speaker impedance curve back to the transformer, which loads the power tube with different impedances with the frequency. In other words, the power tube will amplify the low and high impedance peak. These peaks are smoothed out from the final output by using negative feedback, which carries the output signal back to the phase inverter, creating dips instead of peaks, just before the power tubes so they cancel out, and the resulting output is hence relatively flat. Different amp designs have different amounts of feedback. Fender amps, a basement in this case, have the most amount of feedback of the three, resulting in a flatter response, less gain and less distortion, but if distorted, it distorts suddenly and aggressively, because this feedback balance has been altered by the inverter and or the power clipping. The presence and resonance controls are actually feedback filters that allow more or less feedback of lows and mid-highs respectively. So higher presence and resonance change the distortion characteristics altogether with the EQ. Marshall amps like Plexi have moderate amount of feedback, less than Fenders. This results in a less headroom and a subtle scoop tone when linear, but a fatter rounder tone when overdriven. Entonces. Vox amps have no feedback at all, a very hot bias and less phase inverter gain. This makes them the most responsive of the speaker impedance curve. Hence, it will have a very colored output with a big low-end peak and a high-end boost. Most of the distortion will come from the power tubes alone to amplify the low end to no avail, creating a scoop tone that progressively gets flats as it gets pushed. This makes them extremely dynamic but also a little unstable. You have to carefully set the pre and the power gain without getting too flabby on the low end or too shrill. Voy a mostrar. The amp drive control is exclusive from DSM and Humboldt and not found in any other analog amplifier simulator. We think this is a crucial part of any authentic tube amp emulation, since its effect on the tone is massive. With clean preamp gains, cranking the power amp will add fullness and a touch of response automatically. Keep adding preamp gain and you can control the breakup behavior with it, since it will mask the fizz of the preamp stage and round it off. For high gains, lower the power amp for a tighter, more defined tone, or crank both if you want, and you get the tone of a melting down tube amp, but controllable from your guitar volume control. Let's check it out. On the preamp side, we analyzed these three iconic amps, their similarities and differences, and what makes them so special on their own. We based the AC Brit preamp on a classic 1964 Vox AT30 with top boost and normal channel jumped together to get a full-bodied, balanced tone. The tone stack has the mid-knob disabled as the real ones. This cubed tone stack interact with the unique non-feedback power amp and their mid-heavy 2x12 Blue Alnico speakers to create the iconic throaty mids of the box. Going to show you the box with Blue Alnicos. Dynamic. The USA type is based on a basement. This is a full-bodied preamp that gets fatter and fatter as more gain is introduced. And the clean and verge of breakup tones are unrivaled, especially for single coils that benefit from smoothed highs. The high gain tones from this preamp are very fat and creamy. Combined with the power amp distortion, it can get wild and fuzzy. Let's give it a try. More gain. very fuzzy. The MS Breed is based on a plexi with bright and normal channels jumped for a more balanced tone. This end has rich mids and is brighter than the other two, but it adds clarity and definition for higher gain tones. Also, raising the power amp helps round it off the edges for delivering the iconic in-your-face tones of the Marshall, but without the harshness. Now I'm going to show you the Marshall model. The Cabsim was developed from scratch. We analyzed hundreds of impulse responses charts for each type of speakers and enclosure combinations with the SM58 mic and found patterns that characterize each style of cabinet and matched them closely with analog circuitry. They are not a couple of simple filters, but a complete design with more than 7 filters per side, including many peak and notches per Cabsim with absolutely no noise, latency, or resolution issues. The speaker color knob sweeps between the characteristic high-mid response of different speaker types. This control is crucial to get the desired texture from the cabinet. The black one is based on the vintage Eminence high-power speakers, typical of Fender combos. These are very smooth and balanced, great to compensate for the shrill coming from the single coils and the Fender preamps. The blue one is based on Alnico Blue speakers, very mid-rangey and defined, but not really very harsh. And the green one is based on greenbacks, great for those Marshall-y, jangly tones when extra definition is required. This is the 4x12 with greenbacks, for example, very nice for high gain tones. They are edgy and defined, but we can try the combo. A little less presence. It's a smoother tone. And the blue Alnicos with the 2x12 classic of Vox style is very mid-range. Very nice for those British tones. We can also combine different types of speakers with cabinets. For example, we can have a combo with B30 greenbacks. Or even a different speaker for each side. We can have a 4x12 with black. And the other is a 1x12 with greenbacks. Also, we can really get creative, making your own custom amplifier. If you want to use, for example, a Fender style gain, with a Marshall power amp and use Vox speakers, for example. Or you can go with a Vox power amp and a Fender, and I mean a Marshall preamp with a 4x12s. Very open sounding, but still had the mid-range very present. Also, for clean tones, it's a very nice combination to have the Marshall power amp with a Vox, because now it has some feedback, but not as much as the Fender. And trying with a combo with B30s, and you will have a very open sounding. One of the most requested features from the Simplifier was to have its own reverb on board. And we managed to put that on the Simplifier MK-II. It's an excellent plate reverb that will help you have the spaciousness and the sense of dimensions on the sound, and having the full advantage of a stereo. So it's very handy when playing with headphones or just using it for recording. Let's give it a try. That's dry. So we try to keep the reverb not very invasive, but not too subtle either. So the point was to get it to mix with the guitar very naturally. So it goes up to okay, the reverb also will help you to smooth out your high gain solos, for example. We can try something like this. So now we invite you to try any combination you want with this Simplifier MK-II. You can get a wide range of guitar tones and all the power amp goodness that you're looking for. Cheers!